My office is right next door. Inside that room is my small form factor gaming PC that I built for myself last Christmas. It has a Ryzen 7600X paired with the gorgeous RTX 4070 Super ProArt. It crushes everything that I've thrown at it in 4K, but it's loud, it's powerful, and it heats up my office. But here's the problem. I don't sleep in my office, and I don't want to drill holes in my walls or run a 25 to 40 foot Ethernet cable across the hallway just to play Oblivion Remastered in my bedroom. To make this little mini PC feel like a console, I'm pairing it with the KK3 Max. It uses Hall effect joysticks, so no drift, and the connection to the mini PC is instant over the 2.4 GHz dongle. If you want a console-like experience, the controller matters as much as the PC itself. You can't use a cheap, plasticky toy and expect immersion. This here is the Beelink SER9 Max. It's a mini PC with a confusing name, a processor that you've probably never heard of, and a promise that it can replace your console. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been running this thing exclusively as my home console. And over Wi-Fi 6, no Ethernet, no wires, just wireless bandwidth. Today, I'm doing a full deep dive. We're talking BIOS tweaks, thermal testing, heavy 3D gaming. By the end of this video, you'll know if this is the perfect bedroom console for you, or if you should just buy a long HDMI cable and run it from your small form factor PC, and then just call it a day. Before we talk about this mini PC, just a disclaimer, Beelink did send this over for review. However, they have no creative control. They're not seeing this video before you do. They're not paying me for this review, and I'm here to give you my honest, unbiased opinion. So first, let's talk about the elephant in the room. AMD calls this the Ryzen 7 H255. If you Google that, good luck. It's basically a ghost. I honestly think AMD just throws darts at a board to name their chips at this point. But here's the translation. This is effectively the Ryzen 7 8745H. It's built on Zen 4 architecture with 8 cores and 16 threads. The GPU is the 780M, the exact same graphics chip found on the ROG Ally-X. Aside from the APU, which has 12 graphics compute units, you also get 32GB of DDR5 SOTA memory. This is upgradable and is running at 5600 MHz. The storage is a 1TB Crucial P3 NVMe, plus it has an extra NVMe slot if you want to add another drive for your games. This has the AX200 Wi-Fi adapter with Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. However, on the back, you get a 10 gigabit Ethernet jack. This little APU can also go up to 65 watts in the TDP in the performance setting in the BIOS. In a way, this is basically a greatest hits album from 2024 mobile hardware, minus AI gimmickry. Because it uses standard RAM sticks instead of soldered memory, you can actually upgrade this to 64 gigabytes later. With RAM priced as it is, though, that might not always be the best call. 32 gigabytes seems to be more than enough for most situations. The upgradability is a feature usually reserved for bulky desktops, so seeing it here is definitely a win. The build quality is ridiculous for the price. It's a unibody aluminum alloy. It feels cold, dense, and premium. It's basically a Mac Studio Nano compared to the plastic shells of the GMK Tech or some cheaper minis form boxes. It feels like a legitimate piece of high-end audio equipment. Let's tour the I/O next because there's definitely some weird decisions here. On the front we have a power button, a clear CMOS button, 3.5mm headphone jack, a USB-C, and a USB-A. These both support 10 gigabits per second. There's tons of I/O on the back. Starting things off, on the bottom you have a USB 2.0 port. On the top is a USB 3.2, which supports 10 gigabits per second. We also have a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet jack. a DisplayPort 1.4 that can support 4K at 240Hz, another USB 2.0, an HDMI 2.1 which can support 4K at 240Hz, and another 3.5mm audio jack. This is kind of interesting to see this on the back. As well, you get one USB 4.0, which supports eGPUs, and a data rate of 40 gigabits per second. It's really nice to see this on the back. I don't really like this when it's up on the front. Because you have one of these on the back, this means less cables routing around the front. And of course the DC barrel jack to power the mini PC. Unfortunately for now, this 10 gigabit Ethernet jack sits unused. I'll be doing all my tests with the Wi-Fi AX200 card. Let me show you what I get in the box. Get a little user manual with the mini PC, a little greeting card, and a short HDMI cable. The only other thing that you get in the box is this really long power cable. This unfortunately collects a lot of dust, so cleaning it off you can kind of see some of the specs. This supports an input of 100 to 120 volts at 50 or 60 Hz with 1.6 amps. So this is how I optimized it for wireless, and you can copy these settings or use Moonlight if you prefer. I just went with Steam Link for this test. I'm capping it to 50 megabits per second, but you can go a lot higher if you want. I'm setting this to 4K 60, and I'm using the hardware AV1 decoder. These are all set to basically ultra settings. However, since this game is pretty intense on the GPU, I've opted to set this to 1440p. But just take a look at that network latency. The network ping is sitting anywhere from about 4.5 to 7 milliseconds. Because the H255 has that modern media engine, it decodes the video faster than I can blink. The ProArt card in the other room renders the frames, and this little box puts them on my TV instantly. It feels kind of like magic. But what if you want to play the games on the PC itself? Now, if you buy this, it's not just plug and play. You need to change one setting immediately, or some high-end games like this can crash. Out of the box, the system only allocates about 2 gigabytes to the graphics card, and that causes stutters in Returnal or the new Oblivion Remastered. So how can you fix this? Well, you have to adjust the UMA frame buffer size, so let me show you how to do that next. You can actually get there going directly from the settings menu. Click on System, then scroll down till you see the recovery option, then click Advanced Startup. Then just go ahead and let the computer restart. It'll bring up this menu. Just go to Troubleshoot, then Advanced Options, and click on the UEFI firmware settings. Then just go ahead and click Restart. The good thing about Beelink BIOSes is they're basically fully unlocked. You can pretty much set anything here. We want to go ahead and change the UMA frame buffer size. So to do this, you got to go to the Advanced menu, then click AMD CBS. Then scroll down to NBIO Common Options. Click on the GFX policy. Then you got the UMA frame buffer size. I've already set this to 8, but by default, I believe it came with 2. 4 or 8 is going to be your ideal. I would set this to 4 if you mostly want to play indies and light old AAA games. Set this to 8 gigabytes though if you want to play some semi-modern AAA games. Once you've saved that option, go ahead and press F4 to save and exit. You can also change the performance policy in here. Under the Advanced menu, click on the OEM Features Management. This power limit setting is going to be the 2 performance modes. I'm going to run all of these tests in the balance mode at 54 watts. I didn't really find that the performance mode was worth it. Upping this to the 65 watt performance mode really didn't give me much overhead. Thermals and acoustics are also much better in the balance mode, so this is what I would recommend sticking to. Once you've saved the UMA frame buffer size, and if you've adjusted the power limit, just go F4 to save that and press enter to restart. Streaming from my big PC is obviously something that I really want to do, but sometimes the internet goes out or you just want to play offline locally. What can the H255 actually do on its own? Let's start with the light stuff. indie gaming. In Coffee Talk episode 2, you're looking at a buttery smooth 60 FPS, but look at that power draw, and the temps sit anywhere from about 30 to 45 degrees Celsius. Honestly, one of the things that surprised me the most is I had to double check to make sure the fan was even spinning. This little mini PC is absolutely whisper quiet. If you want to play light indies like this, you're going to be really surprised. It's overall a great experience. However, moving up to Ball Pit, I tried 4K, and 4K hovered around 40 FPS. Playable, absolutely, but dropping it to 1440p gets it at that locked 60 FPS smooth. Even with a lot of particle effects on screen, it's not wavering from 60 FPS. Again, the system is extremely quiet. I can't even hear it running. The 780M is honestly just fantastic for stuff like this. It's essentially the same story with Megabonk. Drop it down to 1440p, but you can keep the rest of the settings maxed out, and you're getting a pretty flawless 60 FPS. With most games around this level of graphic quality, this is kind of where you're going to be sitting, 1440p locked 60 FPS. And these all push under 40 watts, which is really good to see. Here's one that I've been waiting to try on this little mini PC, Hollow Knight Silksong. The game is essentially pure art, and it runs beautifully here. Native 4K locked to 60 FPS, sipping around 35 to 40 watts. If you're an indie gamer, this mini PC is an absolute silent gem. Okay, indies are easy, but this is a max device. I need to try and break it, so I threw some heavy 3D games at it. And I want to start with one of the most memorable games that I've tried in the last couple of years, Life is Strange True Colors. At 1080p medium, it's a flawless 60 FPS, but I still opted to bump the textures to high and it dropped to about 50 FPS. You can still feel that difference, but it's still a great console-like experience. The APU, however, is working really hard here. It's bumping that GPU up to 2.4 GHz with the APU locked to 55 watts. It's definitely playable and it still looks fantastic in 1080p on a 4K screen, essentially giving you a better than a Switch experience with a console that has more flexibility. One thing that was kind of interesting is even when pushing this to its absolute limit in gaming, just look at the temperature. It's barely going up to 65 degrees Celsius. I also checked hardware info, just double checked to make sure that this sensor was correct. And it absolutely is. Even in worst case scenario, you're barely seeing 65, maybe 68 degrees Celsius. And the entire time, the mini PC is still whisper quiet. Then I tried Returnal. You have to set the textures to low because this game has a known VRAM leak issue. However, the result is a pretty stable 30 FPS. It dips occasionally, but you're pushing the APU to its absolute limit. It's definitely playable, but barely. You could of course drop it below 1080p, and you could turn down the XESS quality mode. Since this was so close to 30 FPS anyways, I did opt to bump up some of the settings. This makes it look a little bit better, but it's still so close to that 30 FPS lock. This is a good trade-off, at least for me. The limit here, of course, being the 780M. That APU is completely maxing out the GPU side at 2.6 GHz. This is the peak of what this little APU is capable of, and the max boost clock for it. The CPU is definitely stronger because we're only using about 20% of it, but the GPU is the bottleneck here. Next up was Oblivion Remastered, but this time natively on the device. This is a DirectX 12 title, and DirectX 12 usually crushes APUs. If you don't expand the VRAM to 8GB, this game will scream at you at launch. It won't even let you launch it. With 1080p low settings and FSR set to quality, you get a locked 30 FPS. Does it look as good as my 4070 Ti Super? No, but frankly it's crazy that a mini PC is running this at all. If I turn off the frame rate limit, and make sure everything is set to low, with no upscaling technique and no anti-aliasing. You can push this as high as about 50 to 55 FPS. However, this looks absolutely dreadful, doesn't it? Even setting the textures to high doesn't really impact the FPS at all. With some optimized settings though, you can push it around 40 FPS. Honestly though, I like my optimized settings, keeping it with a somewhat decent graphical quality, locking it to 30. And finally, the handheld killer, Doom the Dark Ages. This game crushes my Ally X, my original Legion Go, basically almost everything. This game is the only one on the list that runs Vulkan, so I tried the handheld preset at 1080p with XeSS set to quality, and I'm seeing roughly around 35 to 45 FPS. It's definitely playable, though I wouldn't really want to play this on a 50-inch TV. The image would look a little too soft. You might want to essentially dial up the sharpening. It's not exactly the definitive experience, but it works. And frankly, that's pretty amazing to see. Before I wrap up, let's take a look at the science to explain what we just saw. Opening up CPU-Z, we can confirm a few different things. There's 2 sticks of Micron memory in this device in particular, and it's running at 5600 MHz with a CL latency of 46. So I ran the internal benchmark, and I got a multi-threaded score of about 6759, which is not half bad, and a single-threaded score of 671. I'll put a chart on screen so you can kind of see where this lands with other handhelds that I own. I'll even put my 2 desktops there just for comparison's sake. It's punching well above its weight class, especially for the size, but the slower RAM does hold back the top 5% of performance compared to an Ally X. Storage-wise, Beelink used a crucial P3. This is a QLC drive, and it's DRAM-less. In SSD Benchmark, I got around 5300 megabytes per second writes, and around 5100 megabytes per second reads. It's not a top tier drive, but it's excellent for gaming. You also have 1 extra NVMe slot, which you can use for expansion. But I have to say, I'm absolutely shocked how fast this thing starts up. To be fair, I did run Chris Titus's WinUtil to strip out some of the Microsoft bloatware, but I did a whole video on that, and I'll leave that down in the description below. Even before that though, the entire system is incredibly peppy. The biggest win for this mini PC isn't the FPS, it's the silence. It's the balance. Mini PCs are notorious for running hot and loud. I've even used older Beelink mini PC units that sounded like hair dryers. But this is a different league. One night, I even wanted to let it update just as I was falling asleep. I shut off my TV and I let it do its thing, and I could not hear the mini PC, not at all. The only indication that it was even on was a tiny light on the power button. Effectively, it was silent. If you value a quiet bedroom, this is the one. I honestly just love this Apple-esque design. It feels like a high-quality device that people will ask about, and it doesn't feel cheap. The last couple years, Beelink has really stepped up their game. They used to make budget boxes, but this feels like premium furniture. Before I give you the final price, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the supply chain. If you've been following the news or you've tried to build a PC recently, you'll know that AI data centers are currently vacuuming up every single stick of RAM and every SSD they can find. I was actually worried that the price of this unit would skyrocket before I could even finish this video, so I reached out to Beelink directly this week to ask if a price hike was coming. The good news is they've confirmed the pricing is locked in for now. The bad news is the market is volatile. Competitors are already raising prices. Right now, you can get the SER9 Max for $699 on their official website. On Amazon US, it's listed at $799, but there's a massive $120 off coupon right now, bringing that down to $679 US. For my fellow Canadians, it's sitting at 949 CAD on Amazon Canada. So here's my bottom line. This is a $679 box that plays 1440p and 4K indies silently. It streams to my 4070 Ti Super small form factor PC perfectly, and in my opinion, it looks better than a Mac Studio. Given that RAM prices are predicted to double in the next year due to the AI shortage, this might be the last time that we see a 32GB DDR5 mini PC with a 1TB storage at this price point. If you're looking for a bedroom console and wouldn't mind waiting 6 months, the reality is the AI tax is coming for our hardware, but today this is still a steal. I'll leave direct links to the best deals I found in the description below. If you grab one, let me know in the comments. Are you trusting Wi-Fi for streaming on this, or are you drilling holes in your walls? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.